Chicago reporter William Kelly chatted with him earlier this morning. We talked about the status of the crime situation, of the migrant cost, and even the status of his lawsuits against Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson over a campaign controversy that William says is a campaign group that is supporting Johnson with in-kind contributions, and Johnson not showing this on his campaign disclosures. Well, that case obviously still working through. Apparently, talking with William this morning, he spelled out what's happening with that case. Gets into the weeds a bit, but apparently the Chicago mayor did not show up at a hearing, and the State Board of Elections says the case needs to be dismissed, but there's another hearing coming up in about 10 days, so we'll have to get another update from William Kelly on that. But that aside, and a lot to say about that case that he has, he also wanted to talk about the city of Dolton, which is looking at hiring former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to come and investigate Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, after Tiffany Henyard has essentially bucked city officials there wanting more oversight and exposure into Henyard's spending of city resources and the travel over to Las Vegas and using tax dollars for various things. Or some people have even raised the question of whether or not she's going around to local businesses and saying, hey, give it to my campaign or else type of thing. I mean, these are all some accusations that are circulating around Dolton. But now apparently some city officials in Dolton want to hire Mayor Lori Lightfoot, former mayor of Chicago, to come in and investigate. Lightfoot's a former federal prosecutor, but did do 4 years as the Chicago mayor and had plenty of, let's say, confrontations with William Kelly. So here's William talking about this particular story and, how he feels it's a rather fascinating one that's going to develop quite a bit.
Greg, you cannot make this stuff up. If we were writing a screenplay for Netflix, they would laugh us out of the room because it's so absurd. Dolton, Illinois has Mayor Henyard, who is under investigation or certainly under a tremendous amount of criticism by her own residents who refer to her as, quote, the worst mayor in America. So what have they done? They have apparently hired Mayor Lori Lightfoot at $400 an hour to investigate Dolton, Illinois, is Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Now, this is when I heard this, I thought that it had to be a joke. There are analogies that I could make that I think probably wouldn't be completely appropriate right now, but it would be like hiring O.J. Simpson to investigate the Menendez brothers or something. I mean, it's like, really, there isn't a better person that you can think of to invest. There are no other attorneys, no other investigators, no other accountants, no one better qualified to investigate Mayor Henyard than Lori Lightfoot. When she was mayor, I FOIA'd her administration, as you just alluded to. When she revoked my media credential, I brought her to federal court where she ignored subpoenas from federal court. This is Mayor Lightfoot is notorious for ignoring any transparency. Okay, and now she's the one that is going to be investigating Mayor Henyard in Dolton, Illinois. I guarantee you, Greg, you have not heard the last of this story.
I'm looking forward to that story developing more and more. So we'll be kind of seeing what happens if they indeed do hire former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, how much that's going to cost, and what kinds of things they find out. And is Lightfoot the right person for this particular job? It's a good question. But clearly, that's not in the city of Chicago proper. But the city of Chicago proper is still dealing with horrible headlines of crime. And William Kelly breaks that down for us.
Well, as you know, shootings are up already. Fatalities are up. Easter weekend, we had, 40-something, shootings, etc. But it's the armed robberies that I think have Chicagoans very, very nervous. When, you have women who are walking to work, and they're being robbed at gunpoint. Armed robbers in gangs of 2 or 3 pull up in a stolen car, jump out, and rob women, specifically women, of their, but not exclusively. Sometimes it's couples walking a dog or going for whatever coffee, but of their purses, their cell phones. These are things that people need to survive, to do their jobs, to keep in touch with their loved ones. These are, it's not even like the old days where, somebody would, be a purse snatcher, and what would they get away with? Your Blockbuster video card and, maybe a $10 bill that you were going to use to buy groceries or something. Now, if somebody has your phone, they've got access to all of your accounts, etc. But over the weekend, there was an even worse development. There's a group on the north side that is robbing people with metal pipes and brass knuckles. One description was Hispanic men. They had a hold-up spree, and these of robbing at least 9 people in the course of a couple of hours. And here's the thing. If these are migrants, and how would we know? Because the police aren't allowed to ask them if they're migrants. I don't know if the police are even allowed to arrest them. It's hard to really tell. But it's okay. So they don't have guns yet, but they're obviously picking up any hard object that they can get their hands on and using them to using these weapons, pipes, brass knuckles in this report, to rob Chicagoans who are on their way to work, trying to somehow make a living or better themselves. And how long is anyone with any sense going to continue to try and live in Chicago, Greg?
Well, and then you've got the ongoing costs to taxpayers of the migrant situation. I know that the city of Chicago has published close to $300 million spent, but are we going to see more spent? William Kelly sharing thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, he did put up, for whatever reason, some kind of an argument that he didn't want to pay. There was, for whatever reason, there was this amount of $70 million. That the mayor, he doesn't have any problem with the $300 million, but for whatever reason, he was balking at some $70 million figure a couple of weeks ago. Now there are reports that he is going to pay that figure. Who are these migrant vendors that are becoming filthy rich off the backs of this migrant crisis? I can tell you from walking past these migrant hotels and going to these locations to do our reports that migrants, their lives don't seem to have improved at all. They're still feeding themselves out of homemade kettles on the street. So where are these hundreds of millions of dollars going? There doesn't seem to be any accountability. Now we have this outbreak of measles and tuberculosis that is not just confined to the migrant shelters. Apparently, there are cases that are being reported in Chicago suburbs and Collier counties now. So this is not only a crisis for Chicago, but it's clearly spreading throughout the state, Greg.
Thanks again to William Kelly for joining us on Mondays, where he breaks stuff down that's going on in Chicago. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out with Bishop on Air. And that's all I've got on this segment. But be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Check out other videos with Bishop on Air. And be sure to follow me on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and so on. And we'll see you back here tomorrow with Bishop on Air.